Says we're live. Yay. Good morning.
Good morning.
This is now Bridge to a Better World. I'm Teresa Mitchell.
And I'm Ani.
And today we want to talk about what the Republicans are cooking up for you. And as I discussed in a comments week or so ago, the Republicans uh, aren't at all sure that they will win the election, even with all of their chicanery attempting to prevent people from voting in various ways. From closing polls, one of their favorite tricks is to say, oh, darn, this set of ancient polls isn't working in a BIPOC area, or by intimidating people from polls, or by setting them up as in Texas, where you have to go to the polls during a workday when your boss is not required to let you off, or if he's required to let you off, it's for a brief period of time and there's no enforcement. He'll be mad at you for taking time off to vote. If you go, you have to go in person. You can't take anyone else's ballots with you, and you have to wait in line. And if you exceed your time and get in trouble with your boss, well, too bad. And of course, the effect is that the people who vote in Texas are people who have enough privilege to vote, and that's the whole idea, because they don't want voting to erode white male privilege, which is very much in place, as you can tell from the news from Texas. So I prepared a set of remarks, and they started off with, what if you don't give a shit about civics? Because people kind of react about in that way if you bring up civics. But civics are going to be used to undermine what is left of our democracy. So I've been talking with Ani over this week about that. And we would like to present to you what we think is moving forward with the GOP. Of course, it centers on the Plan 2025, which you may or may not heard about. I know John and Jabara and those of you who we can see on our comments every week know all about it. But I want to make sure that we give it a good talking to and a good talking about, so that over the week we can spread some attitude, some democratic attitude, some political power attitude, to push back on the GOP on this, because they very much intend to take power in November by hook or by crook. The fecal coliform known as Trump intends to destroy what's left of your political power. And although, of course, your political power is already sharply curtailed, as we notice when things that are wildly popular never get acted on, you have a lot more than a resident of a dictatorship that Trump models his revenge plan on, say Hungary, China, or even North Korea. So let me tell you about Plan 2025. The Trump supporters in the GOP were concerned after the fiasco of the last administration, not because his quack cures and racist demagoguery divided and killed Americans, but because the man is so stupid that he was unable to effectively push forward even his favorite ideas, like building a border wall. And the billionaires that are behind Trump this time around aren't going to wait on Trump to direct what they want done. They know that he would just do a repeat, and that he wouldn't be able to get what they want pushed through. So they are ready to move in a huge, huge way. And I don't mean just ideologically. I mean, they've been going around the country putting out job applications. And the job applications make it very clear that the people they want are Christo-fascists. They want evangelicals who are willing to push forward a theocracy. And they have found thousands, and they intend to find at least 5,000 of these people. Pardon my morning fumbliness. And they want to put them in power, not just at, say, at the head of the EPA, like Reagan did with Ann Gorsuch, the mother of Neil Gorsuch, or James Watt back in the Reagan administration, the old fox in the hen house appointments. The Reagan administration was very much more organized in this sense than the Trump administration was when they came in. And so Project 2025 is big dogs like Koch and Heritage Foundation and they have various names like Freedom Foundation and things like this. The right wingers, they have they intend to push their agenda forward in a fast manner and in a shocking manner. They want to make it clear once they take power, legally or illegally, that democracy is over and you will now obey them. And I know that sounds shocking, but once you hear the details, I think you will see that they intend to institute a sort of shock doctrine. As I was saying, Trump supporters in the GOP were concerned at the fiasco of his last administration. And their gigantic takeover team is going to move immediately. The Heritage Foundation, working with other lackeys of the rich, have created Plan 2025, which is already recruiting thousands of Christ-fascists to take over the reins of government. They have a 1,000-page plan. They did this by sending out job applications in which the would-be bureaucrats are sorted for fascist tendencies and evangelical Christian affiliation. They want pushy, white, cis, het Christian men in there. They did this before, as you may or may not recall, during their disastrous attempt to lead the post-war regime in Iraq. The Bush administration did this. They said, well, we don't have a demo plan in Iraq. Now we smashed the place. So let's just send the Heritage Foundation in there. And this is like an echo of the horrendous Friedman economists who were sent into Chile to fuck up that nation after Pinochet was pushed in by Kissinger into the CIA et al. So this is a plan that in its broad form has been done before. And now it is to apply to the United States. So this great wad of fools is ready to move in. Back during the Iraq War, the Heritage Foundation recruited hundreds of people without background checks. They didn't speak Arabic, much less Kurdish or Turkic or Aramaic or any of the languages there. They were plopped into Baghdad's Al-Rashid Hotel, got off the plane, didn't know how to find directions to the hotel, didn't know what they were supposed to do aside from promoting a sort of Friedmanian economics. And they couldn't even do that because they weren't organized. And they asked around and eventually put together an extremely authoritarian, terroristic regime, which was known for the starvation of the people and torture of their opponents with just about anyone. And the result was they created the great Shia and Sunni militias, which started shooting at each other with Iraqi and American arms that they found laying around after that horrible war. So, but you can be sure that these people know how to speak English and how to jail Americans. They're not going to have this sort of trouble, partly because, as I was saying, they're going to be not just sent out to the various agencies and of the executive branch in the top echelons. They're going to be throughout. That's why they were recruiting thousands. This is going to be Steve Miller's looking at you, glaring, and making you do what they want, and according to their interpretation. And of course, their twisting and corruption of the rules that we're all used to. They're not going to take their turn at power in America so lightly. So most Americans getting their news from TikTok and song lyrics have no idea what the Trumpers planned for them, and think that the worst that could happen is a sort of repeat of Trump's bungling and infighting, minus the COVID. I've seen that in social media where people are saying, oh, how bad it can be. There's really no difference between them. They're all going to do the same thing. Well, this ain't true. And I do know that the Democrats do the Chicken Little routine. So a lot of people who really haven't dug in and are furious at Biden for perfectly good reasons are saying, oh, I'm just not going to vote because it's all the same anyway. Well, a lot of things will be the same. And that certainly includes the genocide of Gaza. We do not currently have the genocide of Gaza available in our levers on the executive branch. And we need to. We need to move on that and struggle on that continually, but we have to understand that power is gone.
Well, just to maybe put it in different terms, that whether you do Team Blue or Team Red, both of them have committed to war crimes. Okay. And And that's bad. And we need to continually put on pressure to stop that. There is a growing voice within the legislative branches to call for that ceasefire, to demand that ceasefire.
Yeah.
Even this administration is making noises like maybe Israel's gone too far. Yeah, you think. So we get it. There has to be more pressure to actually end genocide. I think this is a priority. This is the emergency. This is where the house is burning globally. But by staying home, by anything that would in fact aid a return of Trumpian powers, yeah, he's a dumb shit. Yeah, he's a buffoon. Yeah, he's just about the most idiotic person we've ever had in that position. And that's a pretty low bar, that he manages to just sort of belly under. Um, and yet, and yet, it is the plans that will be coming in lockstep with him. It's the Christian nationalists that we talked about a lot last week. It's exactly this, the Project 2025, that is kind of all hinging on this turn to the hard right. Either way, we are going to have to continue to pressure legislation to end ceasefire and to, try to get us compliant with humanitarian rights globally and to not be war criminals anymore. Yes, we need that. Uh, Under Trump, that gets a whole lot harder because of exactly what Teresa is talking about right now, and that is, uh, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. The line that keeps going through my head this morning is straight from 1984. And it's, what does the future look like? It looks like a boot stamping on the face of humanity forever. And that is, to me, a good description of Project 2025. It is a way of the powered elite, the fascist, the Christo fascist, the Christian nationalist, the white Christian nationalist, call them what you want. We know who we're talking about. It's their plan to, in fact, ensure their minority rule in an anti democratic new America forever.
They don't understand what we want. They don't understand that we want a humanitarian society which will allow them to act freely. But we
Oh, I disagree. I think they totally understand that's what we want. That's not what they're about because that diminishes their power. Their power comes from reigning over.
Yes, they don't understand what we want, and but they do understand how to manipulate people. And increasingly, they're becoming organized on this. I was just talking with Ani about the IVF situation. It's like the Republicans are running from IVF because whenever people twig to the fact that they're actually saying that you can't you can't ever let your frozen embryos thaw out when you're done with your fertilization treatments because they have the crazy idea that these microscopic things that are so undeveloped they don't even know what sex they are precious to a holy God. And I bring up holy God because that was very definitely broadly and angrily put in the forefront of the judge's decision when he legislated from the bench in Alabama and froze, so to speak, the IVF situation. What he was doing and the effect of this going forward is he is saying that the First Amendment is out. We don't give a fuck about the First Amendment because the First Amendment says very clearly you cannot establish a state religion. That's the whole deal. You can have all the religions you want in the United States. We don't tax them. The government doesn't take over them to the extent that they do in, say, Germany. But they want to go further and rule from the Bible, and that's what they mean by going out and saying that a holy God is offended by the idea that these embryos should thaw out. It sounds silly, but they're very angry people, and they intend to enforce this. Now, if I want to talk about the Insurrection Act because Trump intends to use this to push forward Plan 2025 in a form of shock doctrine. They want to scare the crap out of you as soon as they get into power. They want to scare you now. That's why they don't want to talk about IVF, but it will be part of it. And the Insurrection Act will be used by Trump. Now, you might be thinking, oh, the Insurrection Act is only to be used in a national emergency. Now, that doesn't matter to the government as corrupt as Trump under 2025. They will immediately say that there is an emergency and they have to institute the Insurrection Act. And you could push back again and say, but there's no emergency, so what? But that doesn't matter. When in the actual function of power, he will say there's emergency. He is doing thus and so. He will move the troops. The troops will move in, and you can go to the judges and talk about it. But of course, we know that the entire judiciary is heavily salted with right-wing fools.
Also, I'm going to just point out that the emergency can be so manufactured. My good friend Lisa, who interviewed me last week on KBOO, mentioned that her mom's really good friend, these are folks who live in California, and he was convinced. He's asking Lisa about how much of Portland is left after it all burned down a few years back, and if we recall, that was propaganda under Trump about how Portland, he had actually called in the federal marshals because we had some lively protests, and how that got spun into a national narrative that is still believed by folks that have never been here. And it seems like it's believed by some folks that live here, which really puzzles me. It's like you're going to believe Fox News over your own eyes.
Oh, yeah, I can just see it.
And so according to conservatives around the country, Portland has had this state of emergency where we've been living in some sort of smoldering dystopian, burned out landscape for the last 4 years. They are perfectly capable of manufacturing and propagandizing urban emergencies.
Portland man came up to me, big man, respected, tears in his eyes. He said, "Sir,
God help us.
My town's been burning for 7 years." I mean, it's going to be like that. I make jokes now, but this is their plan. So, under the shock doctrine, the Insurrection Act will be in effect. All of the regulatory agencies that you count on to make life normal will be undermined by this, 5,000 fools plan. Quoting Jessica Corbett's article in Common Dreams, the plan contains, quote, efforts to gut the civil service, reverse progress on racial equality, eviscerate LGBTQ rights, restrict reproductive freedom, impose hardline immigration rules, roll back climate action, and end woke military policies, and overhaul public education and curb human rights. And the funny thing about that set of characteristics is that she is quoting the general description. When I went through each piece there, you recognize their intention and the ways that they're going to do it because they've been talking about that. But each piece of that, she was actually talking about a general description of a fascist takeover. It is a fascist takeover. There is no exaggeration here. This is our life if we let these fools in. It's an attempt to turn the entire nation into Mississippi or Hungary. For a start, the very fact that you're hearkening to me will mark you not as an American exerting your freedom of speech and of the press, but as a subversive in agreement with what the Christofascists, do you say Christofascists or Christofascists?
I usually just say Christian nationalist myself.
Okay. They view as an unacceptable person in view. You're unacceptable. Your support of racial and ideological diversity, equality, and inclusion that they call DEI, that'll be sorted into the woke enemy file. Your tolerance or worse or endorsement of human rights for GLBTQIA people will be marked as collaboration with perversion and pedophilic grooming. In their reckoning, a person like me is an act of unacceptable pornography. Your criticism of the alt-right will be following you as enemy data into the new Christofascist seated bureaucracies and computers. In short, your freedom and liberty will be stolen, and people stealing it will gleefully celebrate your misery. This is what they are looking forward to. Some of them on the alt-right, on the social media, are calling it the purge. It's the time when they get to get their guns out. And that's another aspect of it. It's like political violence against you won't be conducted usually under the auspices of the state, at least not at first. Instead, you will be fair game as you go about your work and your activities for the right wings, thugs, and militias. And if they aggress against you with harassment or direct violence, they will not be prosecuted. We've already seen this. I could say Reinhold, but I also remember June Knightley and Yakko Sean, people who were murdered by right wingers. And then we saw the police immediately not only dragging their feet, but lionizing the murderers. This will be increased 1,000-fold. And that's how it will happen. And the intimidation, I want to go back to the intimidation, is such an intense and important part of this. The intimidation will roll over us like a wave until we are until we are afraid to leave our houses. This is how bad it will be. And I want to get that message out to the American people. This is what they're planning. This is what they're working so hard. They have so much money sunk into this scenario. And this is not a worst case scenario. This is their plan.
So I want to talk about what it means to have this kind of plan. This is how fascism succeeds. It's not just by random, oh gosh, things are kind of falling apart, what's going to happen next. These folks have actually very carefully developed and penned this plan and are actually putting the pieces into place right now, waiting for a triggering event. And so I just want to underscore that. This is why we have to counter it. This is why we have to take it very seriously. This is why we have to expose it. There's fabulous, other fabulous reporters, investigators, lawyers that are in fact talking about this now. But we have to get it into the public knowledge. It has to be common knowledge because, in fact, this thrives in its secrecy. It thrives in the space where people are too busy to pay attention to what's going on behind the scenes because, people have a lot going on in their lives. We've been living in sort of a slow grinding state of emergency for some years now. And it takes a toll when you're having to figure out, how to move in the society, right? With between economic factors, between public health factors, between just dealing with this ongoing state of emergency. It's easy to tune out to these sort of theoretical headlines. Oh, these plans, they may happen. Oh, fascism again. Well, yeah, we've been dealing with that for a bit. The threat of fascism, yeah, we'll pull through because we have in the past, and it'll be no, we need to stop and actually look at what is happening.
Yeah.
And then we have to actually tell our friends and families about it because we really need all eyes on this. It needs to, in fact, be exposed to all the sunlight it can be exposed to so it can die the vampiric death it needs to die.
They almost don't want to win democratically because the shock is so important. They very much want to shock us by taking power, by seizing power with this plan. And they have put hundreds of millions into it to make sure it happens. And as I've often commented before, the police are already on their side. They've won that victory. We've lost that defeat. And
the police were never on our side. Let's face it.
They were never on our side, but they were not ideologically Trumpers before Trump came along. And now they have a man to look at, a plan to underline their actions. They have a feeling of confidence in the aggression that, for example, when the police said that the murderer of June Knightley was a homeowner, they did that very confidently. When they attacked Joanne Hardesty with lies, trying to take her out of the city council, it was so brazen. And it's brazen because they're confident, and they're confident because they have Trump, and they're together on it. It's polarized them. in my humble opinion. And that I want to ask, what do you think your town's police will do when the supporters of the one-day dictator go berserk against you? Do you think they will stop them or even investigate if they want? And that's how it will go down, at least at first. So that concludes what I wanted to bring to you, which is heavy enough, I think. I'm sorry to drop this in your lap, but this is what we're looking at. An immediate emergency, an intended emergency that will happen at or before November.
Okay. So be aware, spread the word. Leisha Miller is another, she's a YouTube streamer, a YouTube, what do you call people? YouTube. She's a YouTuber. Leisha Miller has amazing things to say about this, and I highly recommend people watch her videos. She's a lawyer. She is amazing. And I want to thank my mom for turning me on to Leisha Miller. All right. So I'm just going to move forward, I guess, into the Tarot segment of the show. Oh, Elliot, I cannot agree. I mean, yes, Lisa Loving is okay, but Joanne, in fact, was fantastic. I've worked with the woman for many, many years, and she is, in fact, true to her ideals.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move into the more, shall we say, spiritual aspects of the show. That would be, look at us. We are right here at spring. Can you tell? I am right here at spring. I've been
looking at the
snorkely all morning, looking at the, well, I don't think those are cherry blossoms, but those are orchard blossoms. So let's just say do a number on me every year. So I'm waiting for the antihistamines to kick in. But until that time, sorry, you are treated to my feelings of springtime. So the equinox is coming right up. It's on Tuesday, just after 8 in the evening. We will have the moment of equinox. That would be when the sun enters the constellation of Aries. That's what marks equinox. It's at 8:06 in this time zone. And so curious little trivia fact. I grew up thinking that the equinox is that day when day and night, light and dark are equal, and we celebrate balance. Well, it turns out that that's a little more complicated, and that the equilux, the day when night and day, the light and dark are in balance, varies according to your latitude. So here on the 45th parallel, we will enjoy that day on Sunday. Sunday will be the day that there's 12 hours of light and 12 hours of dark.
I didn't know that.
I know. See, I'm full of information. So, a little spring information just coming to you. This is the time of renewal, right? And we have been looking at some very scary stuff. We've been looking at, last week, if you were watching, and if you weren't, please check out the video. We were talking about the Christian nationalist takeover of our right to our bodies, of our right to be anything other than Christian nationalists. In sort of, I was framing basically the lessons of Project 2025 in terms of the Republic of New Gilead, and the fact that as they are coming to power, one of their first pieces of agenda is to control reproduction, control reproductive rights, control access to reproductive health care, control access to trans health care, and delegitimize, if not flat out outlaw, LGBTQ identities and communities. So that was last week. We are looking again at Project 2025 this week in a different lens. And it's all freaking frightening stuff. It's real, and we have to be eyes wide open about it. And that said, It also means that we have to make room to take in joy. We have to make room in our lives to get out into the real natural world and do some deep grounding. We have to touch grass, I believe the phrase is. We have to, in fact, remember that we are here to experience our bodies, to experience these incarnations with joy and with love and with connection to each other. It is, in fact, only through our interwovenness, our interconnectivity, our acting in unity and solidarity that we will prevail during these really harrowing times. And so celebrate the spring, celebrate it with your whole heart, sing with the birds, be joyous, right? Love each other, connect with each other. And this brings me to my tarot reading for the week. We have the Queen of Cups. And we have a couple of inverted cards. We have the inverted King of Pentacles and the inverted Seven of Swords. What does this all mean? It means we've got some challenges, and the challenges really look a whole lot like authority. And we might be dealing with people in our lives that are deceptive, that are not who they seem to be. The Seven of Swords really talks about needing to be aware of deception in our lives, needing to be aware of false friends, of people who are out to sort of confuse or misdirect your attention, who are there to scatter your focus. Whether or not they have any nefarious plans to get their paws on your goods, it's often seen as the card of thievery or being vulnerable to having things stolen. And so it's a good time to actually take a second look at contracts and things like that. But also, it's sometimes the Seven of Cups. I'm sorry, the Seven of Swords symbolizes folks that are just distracting you from what you need to be doing. It's not deception for the sake of stealing objects. It's distraction for the sake of stealing your attention and sort of keeping you off balance. And it pairs in a way that I really, I gotta say, don't love with the inverted King of Pentacles. And that is often a card of somebody who is using their power to dominate, who is, in fact, being overbearing, who is not respecting boundaries, who may be an authority figure, who is putting up roadblocks just because they can, because it's going to benefit them and they don't care about you so much. So, how do we deal with how do we deal with tricksy, dominating, deceptive folks in our lives? The Queen of Cups says that we do it by staying really deeply in touch with our feelings, and that we use our feelings as sort of the litmus test to see, is somebody acting truthfully, is somebody being true, or is somebody throwing out a bunch of bullshit so that we're chasing our tails and missing what's really going on behind the scenes in our lives. We use our deep, uh, deeply centered emotional selves to stay grounded, to remember to respond with love. And sometimes love looks fierce, but it's staying grounded in love. When I say sometimes love looks fierce, I mean, think of, we always go to the cliche, right? Think of the mama bear who is, who is being threatened. Uh, think of, think of how we act as community to defend. We're based in love. We want to help take care of each other. We want to extend nets of mutual aid. But we also we know that we are doing this in love, and we are doing it because things are seriously uh, tricksy. Things are seriously dangerous at this time. And so we have to be in our renewal. We have to take in all of the joy and exuberant bursting forth of spring that we can, because we have slippery, dangerous times going on right now and going on in the future. And we need to take care of each other. We need to take care of ourselves. So stay grounded in love, keep your eyes open, love each other fiercely, take care of yourself, and we'll see you next week.
It's a good thing I got a witch around here. Otherwise, I'd be like 2 arms. And so, thank you for that. Yeah, so I guess that's the. I want to repeat or to summarize my remarks. It's like, please look up Plan 2025. Look up the Heritage Foundation. Read those articles. You can find articles about that I put on my Facebook. I've got.
You can put links in our description.
Yeah.
So go ahead and check the description box in just about a half hour.
Teresa
There'll
Mitchell
be links there.
with an extra I, Mitchell is my Facebook. And
but go ahead and put the links because you're right here right now watching this video. So they're going to be in that description box.
And I'm also on Twitter at Press Watch Now, on X, which I'm almost.
So you can also find us. In fact, the whole, this
all there.
is now Bridge numeral to Utopia. At Bridge to Utopia is in fact these shows Twittery account, all of these things, right?
All of these things.
But stay in touch.
Yes, that summary again, it's Plan 2025. It's intended as a shock doctrine. It has millions behind it. This is what we need to focus on and expose to the American public so they're not caught by surprise by this thing and so that they mobilize against it now. So that concludes my remarks.
Totally. Thank you so much for that. Yes, in fact, John, thank you very much for putting it that way. Feelings are the body's check engine light. Absolutely true. Trust your gut. Yes, Tat. Thank you all for joining us this week. Really appreciate it. Always good to hear from you.
Lovely to see you.
Check the description box below where we will, in fact, put some links to articles, and we'll be back again next week, if not before. I always think, maybe we will get that wild hair and we've done that like twice in 4 years. Why not? Hold open that possibility. Enjoy the springtime springing around us. Love each other, and we'll be back next week.
Our love goes out to you and to all the ships at sea. Bye-bye. Where's my hand? My hand gets closer. There it is. Bye-bye.